Hello, and welcome to Coffee on Korriban.
My pick for number 5, and this is another 2-for-1, is the scene just after Yoda has lifted the X-Wing out of the swamp and set it down, and Luke's looking it over, and the line is, "I don't believe it," and Yoda's like, "That's why you fail." Yes. Another great line that can easily be applied to real life. This mentality of, if you don't believe 100% that you can do something, you're going to fail.
My line from episode 5 is, "Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son." This is going back to what we were saying earlier about Anakin, is just he wants that control, and he wants to have the best for other people still, even as Darth Vader. He wants the best for his son, but he's so misled by the dark side at that point that he feels like the best thing for his son is to be able to rule the galaxy with him. And then on top of that, having someone alongside him to overthrow the Emperor is probably high on his priority list. You can tell that he wants the best for himself and for other people. Still, he's even being a little selfless in that moment, even as Darth Vader. But he doesn't know the right way to go about it because he's trying to control that change. And as Shmi Skywalker said earlier in this video, as I mentioned, you can't stop the change any more than you can stop the suns from setting.
Hearing you describe that, it's almost like, yeah, Vader's talking about very selfish things like ruling the galaxy, but when he's saying that, you can hear like the little bits of Anakin Skywalker, Luke's actual father, starting to bust through, and you actually hear a father's love in Vader's voice.
So moving on to my quote, this one is a little bit more obscure, where this is actually just before the Dagobah training, where Yoda is basically persisting that Luke isn't going to be trained because he's too old, he's too reckless, he's too impatient. But then Obi-Wan is basically defending him, saying, "Was I any different from when you taught me?" Where when we think of Obi-Wan now, we kind of think of him as basically Space Jesus, if we're being completely honest. But at the same time, we can technically say that Obi-Wan was trained by Yoda at some point, because Yoda trains the younglings all the time. And at a young age, speaking from experience, possibly, not going to confirm, all of us at a young age was pretty reckless and did a bunch of stupid things, and we were impatient. Where Obi-Wan's basically affirming Luke being trained by saying, "I wasn't any different. So was I when you taught me." And pretty much just defends Luke with those words. And then eventually the rest is history, where Yoda eventually does train him.
My line for episode 6, the line that pretty much ties up all of the original trilogy to me: "I am a Jedi like my father before me." This is, to me, Luke succeeding where Vader couldn't. Luke basically being on the cusp of falling to the dark side himself, because he was just wailing away in anger on his father like seconds before he says this line. But then when he cuts Vader's hand off and sees the exposed wires in his wrist, realizing that it's just like his own cybernetic hand, he realized just how close he became to becoming Vader himself. There's the Emperor right there, offering him the same power that he offered Vader. "Take your place at my side like your father," or whatever. And Luke, where Anakin would have said, "Okay, yeah," Luke tosses away his lightsaber, which he really didn't need to do, but it was symbolic of him throwing away the power, and he said,
"I'll choose death.
Yeah, I'll never turn to the dark side. You failed. I am a Jedi like my father before me."
So my line from episode 6 is Luke when he says, "I accept the fact that you were once Anakin, my father."
Yeah.
And Vader says, "That name no longer has any meaning to me." And then Luke responds by saying, "It's the name of your true self you've only forgotten." Mm-hmm. And then Vader responds with, "It is too late for me, son." And despite Vader being adamant when he says that there's no hope for him, that's the first time that we as an audience get a glimpse that there is hope, that he can be redeemed. We didn't really believe that was possible up to that point. And the way that he pauses when saying, "It is too late for me, son," we were like, wait a minute, maybe it's not too late. Just the fact that he was like kind of sad when he said that. Luke is just so hopeful that when taken into custody basically by the most baddest dude in the galaxy, he still holds out hope that there's good in him, just like his mom, Padme, did.
Another thing also to go along with that, when he says, "It is too late for me, my son," you don't hear him saying with any sort of pride. He's saying that with regrets, because the dark side by nature promises you all of this power, and yet it takes more than it gives. Because think about it. Anakin was promised the power to save Padme, but he lost the love of his life, lost his mother, lost his best friend in Obi-Wan, lost his children, lost his physical body, or at least a good majority of it. And he's like, he had to have been thinking in that moment, was this all really worth it to even go down this path to begin with?
Another side note where after that line that Luke had says, "Then my father is truly dead," we get a small shot of Vader kind of walking by himself, kind of reflecting on the words that he said and what Luke had said, kind of still making you think, just like Coffee on Korriban had said, he's basically feeling this regret. He didn't want to go down this path, but he's starting to have some second thoughts, and originally we didn't think he could be redeemed, but now, given that camera shot, it's possible. So with that out of the way, we're going to move on to my quote, and it was actually what Palpatine said in response to what Luke basically saying that your overconfidence is your weakness. He says, your faith in your friends is yours, and then he further says, "It was I who allowed the Alliance to know the location of the Death Star. It was I who let them know of where the shield generator was." Basically going back to what we said in the video earlier, where Palpatine has always been manipulating, kind of like the puppeteer with the marionette. He's always in control of pretty much everything, where he's down to that small minute detail of, they're gonna want to know where the Death Star is? Fine, let's show it to them. And then they seem to make it out so that the Death Star is somehow inoperable. Surprise, we just shot a laser in space. It's now fully operational. And of course, I'm not making any light. I mean, I'm just telling you how it is with what's going in the mind of Palpatine, because, as we had said, Palpatine is pretty much in control of that situation.
So I do have one bonus quote from The Mandalorian, and that is from Luke's scene on the bridge of the cruiser. "Talent without training is nothing." And I really have nothing further to say about this one, other than it being pretty much the most direct shot in The Mandalorian at the sequel trilogy, and how Rey was portrayed, which we don't need to go into that any further. We've spoken about it at length, but yeah.
We still have that sequel bashing stream coming up.
Yes, very soon. Tune in for that on, I'm guessing, your channel?
Yeah. My bonus quote comes from Rebels, and it is during the duel between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine. So before the duel, Darth Maul is kind of trying to figure out why Obi-Wan, his arch enemy, is hiding away on a desert planet, and he says, "Look what has become of you, a rat in the desert." And Maul's trying to figure out why such an amazing Jedi, the top Jedi, representative of the Jedi Order, is hiding on a desert planet. And he deduces, "You are protecting something?" "No, protecting someone." Yeah. Which is when Obi-Wan ignites his lightsaber. They have their duel, which lasts a total of, 2 seconds? 3 moves, maybe?
Yeah.
Which is poetic in its own right. I'm not complaining about the duel because it's one of my favorite duels. But after that, Maul realizes he's been beaten. He realizes everything in his life has led to this. And he says, "Tell me, is he chosen one?" And Obi-Wan says, "He is. He will avenge us." And it's really sad because when he figured out it was the Chosen One, he was spot on. He figured it out. But he responds with, he will avenge us. And I mean, in part, that's true, because Luke would avenge, the Jedi as a whole, Darth Maul, Count Dooku, like all these people that Palpatine had ruined, Luke would end up avenging. But he missed the point. He was so focused on avenging all of that and, getting his vengeance and justification for all the things that they and everyone else had done, that he missed the point entirely. And that's because he's been in the dark side for so long that, he really didn't see anything else.
Okay, so for my bonus quote, this also comes from Rebels, but this is actually from the season finale of season 1, where Kanan Jarrus basically finishes off the Inquisitor, the Grand Inquisitor to be specific. And this is actually in response to some of the words that the Grand Inquisitor gave, where Kanan was a coward. He's been fearful ever since Order 66, and rightfully so, of course. But Kanan in this moment basically says, you know what, you're right. I was fearful, and I have had a lot of these feelings. But there's only one thing that's more powerful than fear, the Force. And let me show you how powerful it is. And then he exposes the weakness in the helicopter lightsabers by putting both Ezra's staple gun lightsaber and his lightsaber in the hilt and slicing it like that. But it's in that moment where Kanan admits the fact that he had those feelings. But he also admits that the Force is more powerful than these feelings, where it also kind of directly in opposition of what Anakin would have done, where he would have just given into his fear like he did back in episode 3. But also, at the same time, I can't help but think that as part of the Christian life, as you had mentioned, that as humans we experience feelings of regret, fear, any sort of human emotion all the time. But in the Christian worldview, God is ultimately more powerful than these emotions. And ultimately, I believe it is written, come to me all who are weary and heavy laden, who are burdened, and I will give you rest. Where Jesus was basically saying, no matter what kind of baggage you have, let me take it, because I'm always there for you, and I will give you rest from that baggage.
In Romans, for I am persuaded that nothing can separate you from the love of God.
When he says, come to me all you who are weary, he also says, take my yoke upon you. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. And as believers, we don't have to deal with all the stress and the fear and the worry that people that don't have that hope do have to deal with, because we trust that our Father in heaven has a plan set before us, and as long as we're tuned in with his will. And I think Yoda actually is a little bit off when he says fear is a path to the dark side. I don't think fear is the path to the dark side. I think having fear can be a good thing, but giving into that fear and acting out of your fear and acting upon your fear, that's what can lead you to the dark side.
There is a good example of healthy fear from the first Lion King movie, where Simba's like, but you're king, you're not supposed to be afraid of anything. Mufasa's like, I was today, I thought I would lose you.
Man, you're making me want to watch Lion King again. That's such a good movie. The original one, of course.
Yeah.
Anyway, we hope you enjoyed that video. And again, I'm stoked to be meeting with these guys. You guys are awesome. You make me feel really short in real life. If you guys are not But again, if you guys are not subscribed to the Star Wars guys, please check out their channel. There will be links everywhere, I'm sure.
Yes.
So go ahead and subscribe to their channel, because I've always said a subscription costs you nothing. It's literally a button that you push, but to someone it means a whole lot. So go ahead and give them your subscription. And
also, by the way, myself and Timothy here have started our own Christian channel called Nerdy Disciple. In fact, later on we're going to film the intro to that, so make sure to subscribe there also. And just remember, guys, as we say on the Star Wars guys, the Force is family.
Yes.
And thank you for watching Coffee on Korriban. If you've made it this far in the video, I really appreciate your time, and I will see you wherever I happen to see you in the galaxy.